Good morning and welcome to another beginning keyboard class. If you'll turn to page 64, just a little review before we continue. We're in the G position, which is G, B, D, right? And they're giving us a new C position, which is G, C, E, so that you don't have to move very much. So that's where we are. So going over to page 65, we'll review, we'll play this again. And so, as I've mentioned before, up above here, in fact, let's before we actually play this, I just want to go and get everybody back into the mood of reading a little music every morning or before you play. And so looking at the top of page 65, we're in the G position. So you've got G, B, D, and then it's in the broken chord G, B, D, B, D, and then G, C, E, G, C, E, C, E, F sharp, this is the D7, F sharp, C, D, F sharp, C, D, C, D, and G, B, D, B, D, G. So I can't emphasize enough the value of just doing a little reading before you actually play. So anyway, so here we are, beautiful brown eyes. Now, we just started using the foot pedal. So if you look at the third measure of Beautiful Brown Eyes, you're pushing the foot pedal down in the beginning of the third measure and ending at the end of the fourth measure. And then down in the second line, the same thing. And in the third line, the same thing. And in the fourth line, the same thing. So we're just beginning using the foot pedal. So let us begin. It says moderately fast, but in the beginning you're not going to be doing it too fast, but later on you can move into that. So there we go. They don't have a repeat here, but I want to repeat that, which is good practice, just to play something several times. But this keyboard, compared to the one that I have at home, is just so different. And so when you go from one to the other, there's oftentimes an adjustment. And so that's something that you'll learn as you go from one keyboard to another. So here we go. Okay. So moving on. So on page 66 you have, you know, your reading, you should have already put the notes in there, and so I'll leave that up to you. As we go on to 67, so you've got G, C, G, C, G, D7, G. So these areas like this, it's just good practice as you know, counting, for example, in the middle there, you got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, they don't necessarily indicate it here, but if you'll see, you've got a dotted half note there, and this is 3/4 times, so you're holding it 3/4. I think it was, I don't see it. I know it's coming up, but did we do the, I don't remember seeing it there. I know it's coming up, but anyway, what you have is, in this case, you're 3/4 times, so you got 3 beats to the measure, and a half a note with a dot is 1 more beat. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So, okay, so then down below, it's just good practice, right? You got your G, your C, your D7. And the reason that that's valuable is because you'll be playing using broken chords like that. So now we're going to the right hand, and going from G to G, C, G, right? So up on page 69. So Alpine Melody. So if you'll look, at the end of the first line, you've got your sustain pedal going down for the last measure, and in the second line, the second measure and the fourth measure, the third line, your last measure, and then in the fourth line, the last 2 measures. So moderately slow, it says. Repeat. Okay. All right, moving on. Okay, so this little C major position with the right hand. So you've got G, B, D here in the left hand, and then a C, G, C, E, right? And then a D7. So I don't think we did this last time, so we're moving on here. So you've got several places where you're using the sustain pedal. In the first line, it's not quite 2 measures. And in the second line, your second measure, and then in your third line, the first and the last 2 measures. So sometimes when you hit a note, you don't hear it very loud, so. Okay, so now we're going on. Now this will be a little strange or a little unusual in terms of your positioning, your fingers. Both thumbs are going to be on middle C, and so if you're not used to that, it just feels weird because you've got both your thumbs right there on middle C. So you'll have to learn to keep one out of the way while the other one is playing, right? So if you're looking at starting with the F, okay, so thumbs on C, moderately slow, so. So again, it's very unusual, but you're going to find that as we move through the book that there's going to be different hand positions depending on what we're doing. So this is good practice to not be stuck in any particular situation. So when we go on to page 73 here, they're talking about the sign for a crescendo, which makes the music a little bit louder, and a diminuendo, which is gradually softer. So in the beginning, when you're learning a piece, you're not as concerned with that, but once you start getting a feel for it, then things like that are important. So in the position, now here, it begins with P, which is piano. They also give you tempo, moderate waltz tempo, and they give you the definition of tempo, which is speed. So picking up, so again, both thumbs are on the middle C, so, okay. Oops. So you'll see that your right hand, mostly in this piece, you're playing middle C with your number one finger, which is your thumb on your left hand. So your right hand, as you're doing the C, G, or the F, G, it doesn't get in the way, so that's a good thing. Okay, going on, we have a new sign here. It's called the fermata, and it means to hold it longer than the actual value. And later on, they mention twice as long is a good guide. So, but that's, you know, artistic license, that's up to the individual, but the key is when you see the fermata sign, you want to hold that note longer. So, good morning to you. Again, we're in the, both thumbs are on middle C, so you've got in the left hand, C, G, A, B, C, and in the right hand, C, D, E, F, G, right? So, there's the fermata. And then there's two on the end there, one in the bass for middle C and then the C, E. So, okay, again. Okay, now for Happy Birthday, we're getting into eighth notes. Now we've basically been doing up to this point a quarter note, a half note, and a whole note. And so if you're dealing with 4/4 time, your quarter note is worth 1 beat, your half note is worth 2 beats, and your whole note is worth 4 beats. So here we're dealing with 3/4 time, so a quarter note, should be 3 quarter notes in a measure, or a half note and a quarter note, or in our new situation, you could have 2 quarter notes and 2 eighth notes, because 2 eighths are equal to a quarter note. Right? So you could have a half note and 2 eighth notes, or equals 3 beats, right? So now the counting, this is important, and so it's up to you to decide. There's a couple of different ways up here they suggest, and the way that I'm going to suggest to you, if you look at where we're going to be counting, you've got 3 quarter notes and then 6 eighth notes. And so, but to begin with, okay, normally when we're just counting, it's like, in the beginning here, it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But if you add an and, 1 and 2 and 3 and, again, 1 and 2 and 3 and, then what the and represents is the length of the quarter note, right? So 1 and, that's the length of the quarter note. And depending on how fast you're going, it doesn't change, but that's what that represents, and it makes it easier when you actually get to the eighth notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and, or 1 and 2 and 3 and. So if we look at the piece here, you've got, so Happy Birthday, so 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. You see? So again, on the first line in the bass, it's 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. See that? So doing the bass again on the second line, it's 1 and 2 and rest and, 1 and 2 and 3 and. So the bottom line, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. You see? So the and helps you determine how long the note is going to be, but also right after that is when you're going to, either it's a quarter note or an eighth note, and so it's boom, and boom, and boom. Boom, 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 boom. You see? So, now you decide for yourself which is easier for you. That's just easier for me. And they give you a couple of different ways to do it, but the bottom line is, it's to be able to determine how the difference between the sound of a quarter note and the sounds of the eighth notes, okay? So, going back to Happy Birthday to You, fermata, and then the two fermatas there, so. So holding those longer. So happy birthday, I mean, that's something you want to be able to play for family, friends, so. So moving on, so using eighth notes again, and so as you look at shoe fly, there's no eighth notes there, but they're going to show you the difference between these two. And skip to Maloo is basically the same thing as shoe fly, except you're adding the eighth notes. So looking at, now this is all in the treble clef, so. So this is skip to Maloo is basically the same, except you have those eighth notes in there. So. Okay, so basically that's it for today. So if you can remember 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3. It's a good way to count. So, okay, so we'll continue next time. Thank you and happy playing.